Alright, let's see here. Alright, what's my first guess? 4 zeros, that sounds good. Nothing. I got nothing. No? Wow. Ah, there's a 4. I got a 4. Yeah. I'm a winner. I bet you're not as good as me. Anyway, this is the game we're going to be making. Just a prototype that I've already made. Actually, a couple years ago. This was when I first started learning programming and so on. So anyway, I just wanted to let you guys see how it works for the most part. So it turns out that the combo is something and a 4 and something. So we got a 7, a something, and then a 4, and then a something. Then we got a 7, a something, a 4, and an 8. And there we go, I won. However, I had sound files before, and those sound files will not play because I deleted them since then. So it gives me this nice little error message, but you get the general idea there of how the game works. It prints out the combination with X's and then the guess that I made. So what do we need to do first off to code this? If you said we need to import random, you would be correct. If you said something else, you might be correct, but since I don't know what you said, I can't really tell you. Anyway, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make our secret number, or the combo, the combination, and we're going to set it equal to a random number. And remember, that's random, and then .rand int for integer, and then inside the range of the number, which would be 0 to 9,999. Now, in a previous video, I told you something about the numbers, that it was actually one less than whatever you typed in, and that was correct, but not for this, and not in Python 3.3. I'm not sure if they changed it in 3.3 or if I was just thinking of something else, but that was not correct. It goes up to the number you have there. So this would be anything from 0 to 999. Next, I'm going to go ahead and print 0, or print combo, I mean. So we're going to print combo, and remember it's not in quotes because it's a variable name and not a string. So you notice we got 5,000 some, and we got another 5,000 some. Ooh, it's always 5,000 some. That's nice. Anyway, eventually you're going to see why I'm doing this. Hopefully. I guess I have a 999% chance of this happening for every 9,999 runs. That's not very good odds. Anyway, the way we're doing our random number, it's nice right now, but there we go. You'll notice what happened. We need a 4-digit combination, and we just got a 3-digit combination, which isn't what we want at all, because that would cause serious issues in our game when it's not 4 digits long. So in order to fix that, we need to make our combo, our random number, in a different method. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set combo equal to nothing. So an empty string. And then I'm going to use a for loop. So I'm going to do for I in something. And this something needs to be 4 units long. So I could write a list just right here and put 0, 1, 1, and 1. So that's 4 units long. So it will run this thing 4 times. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make I equal to, or actually no, I'm not even going to make I. I'm just going to do combo plus equals. So it's going to add the combo this random number from 0 to 9. And it's going to do this 4 times. We also need to convert our random number, which is an int, into a string, otherwise it will give us an error. So anyway, it's going to run this 4 times because for I in that list, there's 4 items in the list, so it'll run whatever is inside the for loop 4 times. There you go. And now, no matter what, we're going to get a number that's 4 units long. Now, there's also a better way of doing this, because this is just a hard-coded list, and it's very inconvenient. Another thing in Python that you guys are just about to learn about is called range. You can type in a range from 0 to 4. Now, a range does go up 1 less than whatever is there. But the thing is, it doesn't matter in this case because we only need 4 items, and there's still going to be 4 items, even though it only goes up to 3. Because the way it thinks, it starts at 0, so I equals 0, and then I equals 1, I equals 2, I equals 3, and then it never gets to I equals 4 because it exits the loop. But as far as we care, that's 4 times, so it's correct. But if, for instance, we were just printing I, it would print 0, 1, 2, 3. It would never print 4. But for what we want, it works perfectly. And you can see it does the same thing as it did when I had a list in there. Zeros are also much more frequent now because the percentage chance of getting a 0 is now 1 in 9 instead of a much smaller rate based on 9,999 possible combinations to choose from. So that's going to be our combination, which is great. Now I need to just check something real fast. I'm going to index my combo, make sure that works, and it does. So we are good to go on our combination part. So the first thing I'm going to do here is just print a new line, so we have a nice space. So you can notice there's a space there, and that'll just keep our printed combination separate. The next thing we're going to need to do is grab user input, which I'm going to go ahead and do inside of the while loop of the game. So while true, which is an infinite while loop, yes, but we'll fix that later on, because right now we're testing it. So if we did something like this, where we're just printing nothingness, it would run, and it's an infinite while loop. You can see the little scroll bar thing going down and all that good stuff. But as soon as we push the X button, the infinite while loop is done, so it's not really a bad thing while we're testing. So the first thing we're going to get is input, and we're going to prompt the user by typing guess. So they're going to enter a guess, and that needs to be in quotes because it is a string, and then they're going to input guess. So we have to assign a variable, which would be guess, and we're going to set that equal to the input. So now every time they guess, it will print, or it will assign that guess to the variable guess. And next I'm going to print guess, G-U-E-S-S. And now when I type stuff in, it just says it back. Nice and simple. The problem is, when we print this, you'll notice that all of this stuff that gets printed, it includes letters and spaces and everything bad. So that would cause very bad errors later on when we're doing comparisons. So I need to sort through that information. So we're going to make a temporary variable, and it's just an empty string, and we're going to make another for loop, except this time we're going to go for each letter or each character inside of guess. So in guess, it's going to do some comparison, and we're just going to do an if statement, and we're going to check if I is digit. So we're going to check if it's a number. If it is a number, whoops, I typed that wrong. If it is a number, we're going to add that number to temp. So temp plus equals I. And then at the very end, outside of our for loop, when the for loop's all done running, we're going to go ahead and set guess equal to TMP. And now when you run it, when you type in gibberish, it won't print anything. And if you type gibberish with some numbers inside, it will print those numbers. Now remember, we do have a 4-digit combination, so there's an error here because that combination is way longer than 4 digits. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use indexing. So we're going to set guess equal to TMP, except we're going to index TMP at 4, which some of you may know what this is going to do. And when we have our numbers here, you'll see that it prints the 4th number. Well, not that time, because 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 doesn't exist. So if you remember, it starts at 0, it prints the 4th number, like so. Which we don't want it just to print one number. We want everything up to that 4. We want 0, 1, 2, and 3, but not 4. So there's a cool thing you can do with indexing, and it's by putting a colon before the number you want, or after if you wanted the inverse. But since we want everything up to 4, we put a colon and then the number we're going to, which is 4. So now when I run it and I put 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, we get 0, 1, 2, and 3. Now there's still an error, because if you type in gibberish and some numbers and some more gibberish, it's great because it gives us back the first 4 numbers. However, if we don't enter anything, it's still not there. It's boring and it will cause errors because we're going to have to do comparisons and we won't have anything to compare. So the next thing we need to do is we need to make sure that there's always going to be some numbers. So before we splice our TMP at 4, that's what that's called when you index like that. It's called splicing. And what we're going to do is we're going to add to TMP, so plus equals, the string or the numbers 0, 0, 0, 0. Whoops. Which is great because now if nothing was entered, then that means those first 4 digits are going to be these zeros. But if you typed some stuff in, those zeros wouldn't matter. Because if you type stuff in, like 2222, the zeros get added to that, and then we only keep the first 4. So inside of the program, you see a 2, a 2, a 2, a 2, and then 4 zeros. But once you sort the input, you only see the first 4 2s. But if you don't enter anything at all, you see the 4 zeros. If you enter 1, 2, and nothing else, it would grab the first number that it finds, which is 2, and then it would go ahead and fill up the rest of the space with zeros. So it makes it so it's always sorting our input, and no matter what the user does, something will be input. So it makes it so our game won't break. So this covers our input, which I'm going to go ahead and write some comments in there so we know what it is later on. So this is our input, which you can format comments however you want. This is just how I do it. So that's our input. And then up here is our number generator. You know, it gets the secret number. It's a number generator. Which later on I'll teach you how to use a number generator so you can use it again and again and you won't have to copy and paste the code. So after our input, what we need to do is we need to do our comparison, or processing, or whatever you want to call it. So to begin with, we need to compare whether or not our guess was correct. But when you play the game, it's going to have 4 x's, so x, and x, and you're going to guess. Let's say you guess 2, 8, and then nothing else. It's going to go up here and it's going to compare 2847, the secret number, and it's going to compare it with what you guessed. And you got the first 2 correct, so it should output 28 and then XX, like that. And that's what you should see. So the guess is at first just X's, and then you enter your guess, and it fills in the guess thing with your numbers, and then whatever you got wrong with X's. So to do this, I'm going to make a variable called display. So this is the display of the combination, and we're going to set it empty equal to an empty string, and then this is where our first set of if and elif statements will come into play. So to begin with, we're going to compare combination, and we're going to see if it is equal to, so double equal signs, and we're going to compare if it's equal to our guess. Now we need to compare each individual number, so we're also going to index at 0 for both combo and guess. So now if the first digit is correct, it will run what is inside of this if statement, which is simply going to be display plus equals, and then we're going to plus equals our guess, because at 0, index 0, that would be correct. And then we're going to put an else statement. So if the if statement did not run, it was false. So if combo does not equal guess, well then it's not going to do the display plus equals guess, but it will run the else statement. Whereas if this is true, it won't run the else statement. So if it's not, if the first digit isn't equal to the first digit of our guess, well then instead of printing that guess to display, we're going to want to add to display a symbol showing that that's not right. So in this case, a capital X. And then after all that's done, we're just going to go ahead and print our display, which will just be one number at the moment, because that's all we've programmed so far. And you're going to make a guess, so I'm going to guess 6, and you'll see it print 6, whereas if I guess something that's not 6, such as 7, it'll print an X. So now all we need to do is we need to copy this code and do it 4 separate times. So there's second, here's our third time, and here's our fourth time. And this is comparing every digit in the code. However, you'll notice here that they're still indexed at 0, so that means it's going to be comparing the same thing. So we need to change those numbers for each digit in the code. So the first digit, 0, the second digit, 1, the third digit, which would be 2, and the last digit, which would be a 3. And now we have a comparison of all digits in the program. So there you go. 9628, and we guess 96 something yada yada, and we got the first 2 correct and not the rest. Alright, so this time we're going to guess the actual number. So we guess 9628, and you'll see it printed back the whole thing. It first prints our guess, and then prints what we got wrong or what we got right. So now all we have to do is check if we did get them all right, which is also fairly simple to do. We can just do one check. So we can do if display is digit, because this will take the digit, or it will take the string, and it will check if it's a number. And it will be a number if there's no X's in it. And then just print U1 if that's correct. Ta-da! So now if we guess the number 0661, it prints U1. If we get it wrong, it doesn't print anything. Except, of course, the number we got right, which is 0 in this case. So that's our core comparison. And the only other thing left to do is, of course, make it look pretty. Because right now it's kind of ugly looking. And you don't really know what's going on. So the first thing I think we should do is structure it a little bit. So I, for one, am going to remove all the print statements. So just get rid of all the print statements, except that one, because we will need the combination for testing purposes. So we're going to leave that. But all the other print statements are going to go. Except print U1, because that's separate from the display and everything else. There we go. And when you run it, you should enter guesses, and it should just keep asking for guesses and not tell you anything else, which is exactly what I want right now. The other thing I'm going to do is, after guess, we should print a space. So just print a space, which is once again a new line character. However, if you're printing absolutely nothing, such as this, it automatically will do a space. So you'll see you enter a guess, there's a space, enter a guess, there's a space. Alright, and then down here we're going to make another area in our loop, which is going to be the rendering, which I'm just going to call render. And then inside of this is where we will do all of our printing, except for like the print U1 stuff. So inside of render, the first thing we're going to need is we're going to need to tell the user their guess, or tell them what they got wrong. It really depends on how you want to do that. So I'm going to make, first off, I'm going to print what the user got right or wrong. So I'm going to format this in a different way that I think is cool. So we're going to have two spaces, and then an open and close quote, an open and close, open, close, open, close, and then two spaces. Now we're going to break this up into strings, individual strings, so that inside of those quotes there are quotes, or inside of the parentheses there's two quotes. That way we can concatenate inside of it. And then inside of it we're going to write each digit of display. So first off we want display 0. So we'll go ahead and copy and paste that and put it in between all of these plus signs. And for each one of these we're going to print the different spot in display. Whoops, that's a 2. And then a 3. So now that I run it, you'll see that if I guess 85, it will print what I got right in the combination, 8, 5, and then nothing. And then after that, I'm going to follow the same pattern, and I'm going to print, instead of display, our guess. And I'm just going to copy and paste that, and then rename guess, or rename display guess. And I just do this by double clicking the word and then pasting in the guess. And then we have this. So it's going to ask for your guess, and you're going to guess whatever it is you want to guess, and it's going to show right there what you got right, what you got wrong, and it's nice and formatted. So now our game, pretty much the core mechanics are done. So if you get it right, such as guessing 39999, it prints U1 and all that stuff, which is exactly what we want. It still needs work for formatting though. For instance, after this print here, I'm going to put another space. You'll find if you watch enough of my videos, I'm very big on formatting. So now when you make a guess, it's spaced out and it looks pretty. And then if you guess it correctly, you'll move on. So 4442, and then we have 5452, 6462, 6472, and then 6482, and the combination would then be 692 because all other combinations have been used, and we won. However, I also don't like the U1 printing where it is. I think it should print down here. So in order to get that to print where we want it to print, we can go ahead and remove that if statement. I did a Control X, which is a cut. That way I can repaste it later. And I'm going to paste it outside of our while loop. And then inside here, I'm going to use that same if statement, but instead of printing something, I'm going to do break. So now it's going to be an infinite loop, and it's going to run everything that we have in here. But if the display is a digit, so if all four numbers are numbers and not any x's in it, then it's going to break out of this while loop, and it's going to go down here outside of the while loop, and it's going to check once again if display is digit, which you don't really have to do, but we want also you lost messages and stuff like that, so we're going to need the if statement just to make sure that the right thing prints. There are other ways of doing it, but it's more complicated and I'm not doing them. So print U1, and then, you know, let's put a exclamatory mark there and a capital Y, because we can. So now when you run the game and you guess the correct combination, 8476, it says U1. Perfect. You know, I think it should also print that part before it prints that you won, though. So it just exits without printing any graphics, which kind of sucks. So I'm going to go ahead and copy all of this as well. And before the break, I'm going to print it. So there we go. So now if you guess the combination like 9260, it will print that information, and then instead of saying guess, it'll say you won. And then it also exits the game. So this is the core mechanics of a game. So you make your guess, whatever it is you want to guess. There are different strategies. This strategy always wins in 9 guesses or less. You simply guess what you know as you know it. So 1, 3, 4, and 2. 1, 3, 5, and 2. 1, 3, 6, and 2. 1, 3, 7, and 2. And of course 1, 3, 8, and 2. And we win. So it's an actual game, and it's formatted semi-nice. As you might have noticed with my other one, my other one was formatted much nicer. But that's the core mechanics of this game. It's all done. The only other thing we can do is put in a timeout and put in stuff like that. So we can make up here our initial variables, so placeholders. And then in here we'll have guess count, or just guesses, and it equals 0 to begin with. And then what we'll do in here is we'll put while guesses is less than 10. So you now have 10 guesses. So at the very end of our loop, after we render everything, we will plus equal guesses, plus equals 1, and then it'll go back to the top, and after 10 guesses it'll go down here, and if it's not a digit, then we don't even need that. We just can use an else statement, because if it is a digit, it's going to say you won. Well, is there really anything else you can do other than win? You lose. You either win or you lose. There's nothing else that can happen. So we're going to use an else, and we're just going to print you suck. No, I'm kidding. That's kind of mean to the gamer. So we're just going to say you lose. And we're just going to put a period, because it's not exciting. I don't like that. We'll put lost. You lost. There we go. So now when the user is guessing, so this is guess 1, guess 2, guess 3, guess 4, guess 5, guess 6, guess 7, 8, 9, and this is my 10th guess, and you lost. Genius. However, what happens if we get it right on the last guess? So I know it is 1731, so I'm going to just type this. (17.3). I lost count of my guesses. What am I on here? Darn it. I failed there. 2038. Alright. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And then our last guess is 2038. And it does, in fact, catch it, and it makes sure that it prints you won. So our game is done. You can of course add levels and different things to make it unique, which I will cover in the next video, because there are a lot of things we can do to make this game more fun. but the concept and the working prototype is done. Be sure to see the next one. It'll be quite a lot more covered. I think actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish this game the hard way. We're going to put levels in using stuff that we already know. And then the video after that, I'm going to show you guys how to code as an actual programmer. Because right now we're doing everything manually. So let's say we wanted different levels. Well, the first thing we'd have to do is before we start our while loop, we would have to ask the user what level they wanted. So we'd have like an input statement, and inside that input statement we would write something such as here, I'll just write a preview here. So enter 1 for hard, 2 for easy, etc. And then when the user inputs it, we would use that input to determine what loop we should run. So if difficulty equals 1, then we would go to hard mode. If difficulty equals 2, then we would go to easy mode, etc. And then we would just copy and paste this entire program here, and we would just edit the things that need to change for the different difficulty modes. For instance, if easy mode doesn't have any guess count, we would remove this guesses thing, and you would have to guess the correct number in order to exit the game. Whereas if super hard mode had 3 guesses, then you would have to change how many guesses are in there, which is just in general really bad programming, having to copy and paste code. That's something that a good programmer never does, ever. Well, okay, there is occasions where you need to copy and paste, but most of the time, no. Never, ever, ever, ever. So anyway, that's what I'll do next 2 videos. Have a good day, or night, or evening, or whatever. I guess, yeah, I won't use that to end my videos from now on, because it's very inaccurate, because I don't know what time you're watching the video. So yeah, I'll just see you later. That does work. Except, no, that doesn't work either, because I don't actually see you. So I will talk to myself in front of a camera later. That does work. Goodbye.